Good night, everybody. Welcome to tonight's chat and chew. I see we already have our YouTube family in the house. Joy said, "Good evening, prayerful and excited about tonight's chat and chew." So, yes, it's going to be a great night with some engaging conversation. I don't know what's about to come up. You don't know what's about to come up. And so we're just going to have fun here tonight. So, first of all, I will let the ladies introduce themselves. I know them from different walks of my life. So, first, we'll go with who I've known the longest. So, let's go with Tanisha, aka Minnie,
Aw.
who I met in college way back in the early 2000s now. Well, the latter end of the first decade of the 2000s. But
Right.
welcome back, Tanisha. This is your second time presenting to us. So, just introduce yourselves and then I'll move on to our next guest.
Thank you, Zami. I'm very excited about tonight. I am looking forward to what will unfold in this conversation. Hi, everyone. I am Teneisha Grimes. Most people call me Minnie. Feel free to call me whichever one you can remember. I am a certified relationship coach and a financial educator, primarily working with a lot of Caribbean people, I would say, to help them navigate finances in their relationships. So, a lot of that has to do with this whole independence thing and what we're going to be talking about tonight and how to shift from that his her mindset to a our mindset. And yeah, I'm excited to dive in.
And then next we have our special guest, Shana, who is representing for the single women and all opinionated women worldwide, no matter the marital status, okay? She is representing for you. And we met professionally. We both volunteered for an organization, a great organization in the Bahamas. And she is just aware of many hats, as many of us are, but she is just flowing in the creek. Actually, why take it away? Why don't you do it? Go ahead and let them know about all the hats that you wear and who you are.
Good night, ladies and gents. Hopefully, there are gents joining us. I'm Shana E. I am a creative. I am a floral designer as well as a business coach, a mentor, and a business strategist. So, I really love talking about relationships. If I had another life, I don't believe in other lives, but if there was another life, then I would probably be into relationship coaching and psychology. So I really love talking about this subject and having good conversation, one that is constructive, most of all. Yeah.
Heavy on the constructive, right?
Yeah.
Someone asked where Tanisha is based. She's based in Canada, but obviously she has an accent. She's from Trinidad, no, Jamaica. I say in Trinidad. Her husband is Trinidadian. He would love to hear that. She is from Jamaica. And of course, knowing the way of life, definitely catering to that clientele. A lot of your clients are abroad now, right? Are they based in, they're,
Honestly, they're all over. I have clients in Trinidad, in Jamaica, and people living in North America, the UK, but Caribbean descent. So,
yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, exactly. So the the
Just want
reason
to make it clear, I am Jamaican, married to a Trini, and so my accent can sound a little confusing. That's all.
yeah. For some reason, I was just seeing the Trinidadian flag, so it seems like you may need to skew over to the Jamaican side a little bit more. In my brain, I was seeing Trinidad on you, so
Ooh.
even though I know 100%, that means that someone needs a trip to Jamaica. Not in a bad way, Minnie. The accent is still there, 100%.
Uh-huh.
So, so first of all, the conversation started out with our focus of the month is independence.
Mhm.
But our goal for our community is interdependence, which is this kind of hybrid model of yes, I have things that will be independent as part of my personality, but there are aspects of my relationships where I need to be more dependent, and not just dependent as in I take, but this model of we have this beautiful synergy of codependency, so that interdependence. So, but first of all, what do you define as, and I'll go with you first, Shauna, How do you define interdependence, and what was your perspective of that growing up until you had this mind shift?
Mhm. So one of the earliest memories I can think of when it comes to independence is my dad saying that he wanted me to be either a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant. And here's why. Because he didn't want me to marry one of those types of people. He wanted me to become that so that I wouldn't have to rely on anyone. And so that is one of the places that that foundation was laid, right? And so, of course, growing up, coming into adulthood, independence for me meant I could do what I needed to do for myself. I didn't have to rely on anyone. I didn't have to wait on anyone. I wasn't at the mercy of anyone, right? And then I realized, though, as I told y'all right before, over the past year, and I've had this slow realization, and I've had so many conversations over the past few years, and then it just started clicking to me in the last year that independence is a scam. I will say that openly. It is a scam for women because it can cause us to carry the weight of the world, and we don't feel like we can unstrap the burden, unstrap the weight, which is not what Christ said at all. Like, that's not biblical. And at the same time, it weighs on you. It just does. It weighs on you. And so I've had some very real realizations that it is interdependence, as someone mentioned earlier. It's interdependence, it's relying on each other, it's carrying each other's weight. It is me looking from the outside in when it comes to marriage. It is some days you only have that 20. And so the other person has to step up and do what they can to make up for that, and vice versa.
Mhm.
So that's my initial thought on it.
I love that. And Minnie, what would you think? Did you ever view yourself as an independent woman?
Honestly, a lot of it overlaps with what Shana said, so I really don't want to repeat it. But to summarize it similarly, I grew up kind of with my mom's voice in my head saying, you need to go to school and make sure and do well in school and be highly successful, because I don't want you to grow up and have to depend on any man for anything. Like, you should be able to can make your own money and provide for yourself, and should a man ever decide to treat you anyway or want to leave you, like, you'll be okay. Like, you should be able to can do this on your own. So that's what independence meant to me, at least, and that's what I felt like I strived for a
Mhm.
huge portion of my life, until similarly in a marriage now I realized that that actually worked against me, and we'll talk more about that later on. And since diving into the world of relationships and studying the art and science of relationships, and then getting certified as a relationship coach, I am all for interdependence. And it's, just as Shana mentioned, it was like, it's the two of us working together towards a bigger vision.
Mhm.
That's what it comes down to. And it's not just me looking after myself and my own needs, and making sure I meet my goals and I'm okay and I don't care what happens to you. It's like, it's the two of us, we're building something together, and we get there so much faster when we're working together. And that's now what I'm all for
And
in
we can turn the
30.
camera off. That's the gist of the conversation.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
But you shared on your Instagram story recently, and that's where she's very active with like her clientele, and her reels are really good. It has a great Caribbean flair. Um, but you shared about a client you had recently who
Mhm,
she was going through your coaching, and her pain point was, my husband doesn't view us as a team.
mhm,
He's not coming on board with me. And when you had this session with her, what you realized was she had an independent mindset
mhm.
that she was viewing life through the lens of, and it led her to believe that he wasn't on the team. Meanwhile, she's the one who was like, it's only I, there's no I in team. So he's like,
Right.
I can't be a team because you over there with the I.
Yep.
So you want me to bring all the other letters, but you over there with I, and it's not going to link up. No, it's never going to
Exactly.
agree. And
Yep.
so what Minnie did is she created these slides to walk us through that case, and
Hmm.
then we will send questions in surrounding this particular case that she put together. So I'm going to share the screen, and you can walk us through. Can you see it good?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I didn't focus these slides on the one client just to protect her identity. I actually made it a bit more generalized to kind of highlight a persona of
Mhm.
these independent women because I have worked with a few of them and there's just a lot of similarities amongst them. And as I said, I myself was one of them. So what I'm sharing here, think of it more as a persona versus a single person. And so, what I want to start off by saying is what I tend to find with these women when you get to know them, they start off in a childhood where they witness some form of financial struggles happen within their family of origin. As I said, my focus is typically on the money side of things, so I'll talk a bit more on finances. But it could just be that they're witnessing already that their parents or their caregivers are not always on the same page, right?
Mhm.
And for them, that developed a mindset in them to feel like whatever it is they think is causing the problems with their family, they're going to ensure that they don't have that when they grow up. They're going to do what it takes to avoid turning out like that. And
Mhm.
for a lot of them, it comes down to, what I'm going to do, what I have to do to become successful. So I don't have to go depend on a partner who is going to cause this stress in my life that I'm witnessing growing up, you know? So that's how their childhood starts off. And then what happens is as they get into adulthood, they're now very driven to achieve this financial independence. They're working their butts off to make sure that they are financially secure. They have their own money. They could buy their own stuff, provide for themselves. I don't need you to pay my bills or anything. If you want to leave, you can leave. I'm good. Right. That's
Mm.
that's their adulthood mindset. That's what they're working towards. And then they finally meet this person, the person that they decide, I want to get committed to you. I want to do life with you. Head over heels, we're in love, we get married, or we're highly committed, fully committed. And in this relationship, they're still very determined to maintain a sense of independence. And so what happens is that they're going to ensure that they're contributing their fair share to this relationship. So they're not going to expect that the guy is just going to pay everything. They're still going to try to figure out how much I need to pay for certain bills, like what am I responsible for? They're making sure that they're contributing fairly so that nobody could say that, oh, I am the one that have to provide for you and, you need me. They don't ever want to be in that situation. They don't ever want you to think that they need you, right? So they're going to make sure that they're contributing fairly. And then they have their first child. And what this is where I see, at least for the times that I've worked with, that's where I feel like a lot of them get to that point where things get really shaky. Because before that first child, some of them manage to they make it work. Like this, with this, we contributing fairly, they make it work. But that first child comes and starts to shake things up. Because what happens now is that the women are the ones that typically go on maternity leave, right? And now you're on maternity leave and you're not no longer making that solid income that you'd be making during that time period. And the men continue to work most times. Obviously, I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but the men continue to work. And the women are now finding themselves in situations where, sure, maybe there were some adjustments made to how we're going to do the bills. Probably we've agreed I'll contribute less, things like that. But in the end, something starts to still feel a little bit unfair because what they start to notice is, oh, when the kid, um, needs like new clothes or new shoes, or there's stuff that the kid always needs, and the mom typically is the one that sees these things and the dad typically don't, and so they'll spend their money to go buy it because they're not gonna ask him for anything. Like, he should just know that they need this, so go buy it, and if he's not buying it, then I shouldn't have to ask, I'll just buy it. And they do these things on their own because there's this independent woman, right? And I don't need to ask you for anything. But as they do it and they start to watch their partner going about still doing what they originally agreed to in the beginning, they haven't changed. The partner hasn't really changed. They're just doing what they did in the beginning when we agreed to be married. And then they start to resent them. Like the female this independent woman now starts to resent her partner, right? And for lots of people, that first child, things could just go downhill, and that's when they realize that they need the help. For some, that first child is just, they manage to bury it and they get through it, and it's like, I'll just keep pushing on, I'll keep doing my thing and silently resent my partner. And then they still continue to have more children. And as they add kids to the mix, each child has a cost. Like, kids are expensive. Hello, if you didn't know. Every time you add a kid, the money is, there's more money needed. And so as they're adding more kids to the mix, and the mindset hasn't changed, the attitude hasn't changed, the way we're managing our money hasn't changed, the way we think about it hasn't changed, it becomes so much now that they just feel this huge strain, they feel this pressure, they're unsure about what's going to happen to their future, to their kids. They feel this pressure because they brought these kids into the world, and obviously being the independent woman, they need to make sure that they could provide for these kids, but they don't know how they're going to do it, and it becomes a lot. And that's where it gets on that brink now of feeling like, I need help. Like, this relationship is not working. Some people call it quits at that point and divorce. And the ones who are very determined to actually make this relationship work will go and seek help from someone like me. So I'll pause there before we get to the next slide, which is what happens when they do go to seek help. But does this make sense so far in terms of like the flow of how this independent woman develops, and how she gets to that point of realizing that this independence doesn't work in the relationship?
Definitely. I mean, I probably changed my mindset before kids, but I could definitely see that I was on the trajectory to
Mm.
be in this position. And it's crazy how resentment with having a child would show up in different ways. So like it's just amazing to me that these women would experience it through the finances, where I
Mhm.
experienced it in a different way and I had to quickly pivot, but that's a story for another day. But
Yeah.
Sheila, do you have any questions about seeing this kind of cascade of independence through singleness into marriage and motherhood?
Mhm. I can definitely see how it could cause issues in a marriage, especially after the child. My genesis of like the independence didn't start with the financial struggles, but
Mhm.
I could definitely see how it's exasperated by having
Mhm.
that foundation and seeing that as a child.
Mhm.
But that's very good to know.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
then getting help.
Yeah, so then now when they come and they decide to seek help and we start working one on one, um it typically find three key insights typically reveal themselves to primarily to the clients themselves. They learn these things about themselves. So I'm gonna share them here just so that save you some of the digging that's you would have to go do, um, which might bring up something for you to learn about why you're probably the way you are. The very first one uh, is that we find that they gravitate towards having an avoidant attachment style. Now, I know attachment style is not something everybody knows about, and you could do a whole course in this, and we don't have time to get into that. So I'm just gonna briefly explain it as it comes from this thing, this area of psychology called attachment theory, that tries to explain how the emotional bonds that we form with our primary caregivers as children affects the intimate relationships that we have with our partners as adults. That's a very simplified way of explaining attachment theory. And under this attachment theory, they've identified that there are four typical styles that people tend to have. And it could be a secure attachment style, it could be an anxious attachment style, an avoidant attachment style, or a disorganized attachment style. I don't have time to go through all of them, but what I just want you to understand is that the out of those four, the independent woman tends to gravitate towards having the avoidant attachment style. And what that means is that chances are when she was a child, her emotional needs were not typically met from her primary caregivers. So when you think about what these needs are, we're talking about her need for feeling safe at most of the times. Maybe not all the time, but at least most times. She needed to feel safe. She needed to feel seen. She needed to feel soothed, when she's upset, when she's crying, not just told, stop your bawling or what you crying for. Like she needed somebody to actually sit with her and help her regulate her emotions and get through that. And she needed to feel supported. And chances are, if she didn't get those needs being met, she figured out how to meet those needs for herself. So she figured out how to cope and learn that, hey, I can make myself safe. I don't need anybody to see me. I see myself. I am good as I am. Like she just figured out how to do it on her own. And that's what shaped this avoidance style within her, which led towards this independence that we're talking about.
And let's pause there a little bit, because something we hear a lot in Caribbean households is they'll beat you and then they'll say, "Stop crying before I give you something to cry for."
For
Like that's
right.
the phrase, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so we're in this hamster wheel of, like, even if they had some aspects of, positive parenting styles,
Yep.
we still lean predominantly culturally to this avoidant attachment style, because we're told if you don't be quiet, you can get more beaten. And so essentially just causing us to gravitate into this lane of, I need to self-soothe, I need to self-regulate. You're not going to come to my level and help me with this. For the most part,
Yep.
I have to deal with it myself. I know my mom would do that, and on the tail end come and apologize.
Mm.
So I probably had like a little bit of a balance there, but still culturally the swim lane is into this avoidant attachment style.
Correct. Well, I wouldn't just say fully into the avoidance because, as I said, there are other styles like the anxious, and as I said, the avoidance is for those where the parents probably would not come back and try to repair with you. They probably wouldn't come back and try to apologize and say that they're sorry in any way. They just let it be, and you should just learn to figure it out. The parents who do come back and try to repair, and their style is a bit, their love or their ability to meet your needs is a bit inconsistent, tends to create more of the anxious style. But as I said, there's a whole lesson on that, so I don't want to take up too much time going in that. But yeah, the avoidant ones, just think about it more so from those who did not typically get that repair and they just had to learn to figure it out on their own, and that birthed that independence in them, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah. And as you said, to your point about culturally, like this is just how we are as Caribbean people too. That's why I primarily work with Caribbean clients. Just saying, because we're a traumatized culture, and there's a lot of work, a lot of things that need to change in our mindset to help move us forward. So, yeah. Okay, so moving on. The next findings that I tend to have about them is that they have some very interesting beliefs about money. And I know this is not a money conversation, but you have to understand that money is this tool that we all use to get what we want. So regardless of what the focus is, everybody wants money. Everybody wants money. And what you find with these independent women, um, one common belief I've seen is that somehow they believe that if they just get more money, all their problems will be solved. Because they just believe that I just need to have as much money as possible and life will be good. As long as I don't have to depend on anybody, all my problems will be fixed. That's a very interesting belief that does not serve them. And they see signs of it when I highlight the fact that their goalposts keep moving. So, one minute they say, oh, I just need to earn $80,000. And they earn the $80,000 and they're still unhappy. Oh, it's because I need 100,000. And it gets to the 100,000 and they're still unhappy. And it just keeps happening. And so we disprove that belief that no, more money is not going to fix your problems. The second belief is that a lot of them tend to think that there just is never enough money. And because they believe there's never enough money, they find themselves in this trap of just like some of them are they're just saving a lot and they don't really enjoy life as much because they feel this need to hold on to every little thing because they're preparing for that possible rainy day if it ever comes and they need to be on their own. So because there's just never enough money in the world, they're saving and they don't enjoy life and they don't do things that really light them up or go out and have fun. And then the third one is that some of them believe that they just deserve to spend money on whatever they want without having to justify things to anybody. So they believe that they work so hard to get to where they are, to get all the money that they have, that if they want to buy something or they want to go on a trip, they shouldn't have to they shouldn't have to ask for permission. And they're right, they don't have to ask for permission, but especially if you're in a committed relationship, it should be a discussion, right? But some of them just think like, hey, it's my money, I work hard for this, I should be able to do whatever I want with my money. And what I see with some of them is that they're the ones who are also very likely to rack up credit card debts because they will just spend to treat themselves and they'll convince themselves that, oh, I'll find a way to pay this off, I don't need your help, don't worry about me, like I've got it. But at some point they are now drowning in debt and they're too ashamed to tell their partner, and yeah, it doesn't serve them. So that's the second typical finding around the money stuff. And then the final one here is that she often chooses herself over the relationship. So I'll explain this one a little bit more. I try to get clients to see that there are really three aspects when you think about being in this committed relationship. There is you, there's your partner, and there's the relationship. The relationship is like its own separate entity. Your partner is not the relationship, right? There's you, there's your partner, and there's the relationship. And when we're making decisions, the independent woman, her mindset is often one of, if I'm going to make a decision, it needs to be a decision that is good for me, especially if she feels like it's going to be bad for, if she thinks it's going to be bad for her in any way, it's not going to happen, and she doesn't quite care. That might be strong. She prioritizes that this decision must be good for me at all times. If it's not good for you, that's okay. You'll figure it out, kind of thing. And what I try to get her to realize is that you actually need to be making decisions for the relationship. So if you're making a decision and it's good for you, but it's not good for your partner, it's not good for the relationship. If it's good for your partner, but it's not good for you, it's not good for the relationship.
Hey, run it back. Say it again.
All right, let's try this again. If it's good for you, but it's not good for your partner, it's not good for the relationship. If it's good for your partner, but it's not good for you, it's not good for the relationship. So we need to think about what decision do we have to make that is good for me and good for you so that it can be good for the relationship. So you have to see the relationship as this separate thing that we're cultivating, that we're creating together, and stop thinking about myself and me and what's good for me, and thinking that, oh, if I choose something that is, good for you, then it means like it's not good for me. And it's like, no, it's the relationship. The focus is the relationship. We are building the relationship. So those are the big three mindset shifts or insights that tend to come out in these sessions.
So I'll park there a little bit because,
Mhm.
Shauna, you said that it wasn't the money, right? So let's talk about if you see yourself in any of these, in previous relationships or any situations, and if you'd like see yourself in one, two, or three here, or another one, a fourth one.
Definitely, I have avoidant attachment style for sure. I'm working on moving to secure, but I definitely have avoidant attachment style for sure.
And
Um,
what does that look like for you specifically
um,
as an adult?
it looks like you might be doing too much. So let me just stay right here. Let me take a little step back. You stay over there and you figure out yourself. Um, it could be just me being very self contained and not asking for help, not expressing that there is a need or there is a need for support. Um, and then also, if I try to express a need or I do express a need and it's not met, then there's almost like a, okay, well, that didn't work out. So I'm going to retreat again. And I'm not going to ask because I don't ask anyway. I went out of my comfort zone to ask. You didn't respond. So I will continue to do what I was doing before, which was don't ask. But
Mm-hmm.
then, as a single woman, that can also breed resentment
Mm-hmm.
as well in the relationship because then it turns into, well, it could turn into, well, why do I have to do things myself? Why don't I feel like I can depend on this person if I'm in a relationship? Why do I feel like I have to do everything by myself? It's weird.
No, that's 100%. And you said even as a single woman, that same mindset is in marriages. Tons of them,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And a lot of women are silent in marriage, breeding resentment because they didn't address these things early on, and they don't realize it's a me problem. Like I'm seeing this, and I'm like, oh, that's a me problem. That's
Yep.
definitely a me problem.
Yep.
And so, often we'll put the blame at someone else's feet when it's something that we really need to address at our root. And so, definitely love this stuff. Love all of the research, the study that went into it, Minnie. It's really good to see yourself in science and also like anecdotal evidence that you have from your various personas. So I'll move on to your next slide. How to pivot. Y'all know I love this word pivot.
Yeah,
How
that's why I
to
use it. I use it for you,
pivot.
Femi. I use it for you. Yeah. So if you find yourself as this persona and you are seeing all these signs and you have the avoidance attachment style, like Shana said, um, there is a way for you to pivot and choose to do things differently. And so what I've created here is what I called, or what I'm calling right now, the solid partnership trifecta. This is something I created. This, you can find this on Google. This is just based on my studying so far, the clients that I've worked with, the patterns that I've seen, and even just from my own experience. And so I've tried to simplify it so that when you walk away, you can remember it. Hopefully, it's also a Venn diagram because I'm a math nerd.
Come
For those
through,
who don't
solid
know
partnership trifecta.
me.
Come through research. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So there are three parts to it, right? The first thing is that the first thing that you're going to do is take ownership. And what this means is that you are going to shift yourself out of this mindset that you are a victim in your life and that things are just happening to you and life is just happening to you and your partner is the reason for all these problems and, everything and everybody is the problem. You are going to remove yourself from being a victim and become an author in your life. You are going to be the one that is finding a way to show up differently, to change your behavior, to make different decisions, and see how just by being different, by changing yourself, your partner will change. People around you will change. Because just as Shana said earlier, too, some of it comes from just like learning to speak your needs, right? And when you're taking ownership, that's a part of it. Like you're now speaking up. You're realizing, like, hey, I have needs and I actually need to speak them. And when I don't speak them, I am building up resentment and blaming everybody. And so you speak your needs. But then when you speak your needs and you see that, oh, they're not being met or people are not listening, and then you decide that you want to just retreat and be like, oh, well, I spoke it and nobody's listening, that's still on you, right? Like you're choosing to retreat. So if you're taking ownership, what you should be doing then is setting boundaries around that, right? It's like, hey, I told you this is what I need. And if you're not going to meet these needs, here's what I am going to do. A boundary is about you. It's about what you're going to do. It's not about the other person. So when you shift in this mindset of like, I have control and I am the author of my life and I'm not just going to let you do with me as you please, then you show up differently and things start to change, right? So, first one, taking ownership. That makes sense so far? Cool. Second
20
one.
cents, 20 cents.
Okay. The second one that you're going to do is curiosity. And this is about starting to get curious about your partner. So, us independent women, we tend to feel like, we know it all sometimes, and we make assumptions. And, your partner might do something, and you're just like, oh, it's because they're blah, 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 blah. That's why they do that, or you have your own stories in your head about what is happening. We're shifting that, right? You are going to consciously move into this attitude of being curious at all times. And what that means is like literally asking questions. It's like removing the assumption side of you. It's trying to understand your partner. So if your partner is saying something, you're not going to listen to just respond anymore. You're going to actually listen to understand them. Not listening to respond, listening to understand. And how do you know if you're listening to understand? If your partner feels like you understand them. It's not if you think that you understand them. Your partner has to actually feel like you understand them. If they don't feel like you understand them, then you're not even listening to understand. It means you're not being curious, right? So this conversation is very triggering. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Believe me, when I learned this stuff too, I was very triggered. So, yeah, getting curious. That makes sense? Okay. I won't talk about the overlaps yet. I'm just going to cover all three. So, number one, take ownership. Number two, get curious. And then number three is putting the relationship first. That's what that is, relationship first. And this is now where you're going to make a commitment. Oh, I should have started off by saying, by the way, this model here only works if you are committed to a partner who is also invested in this relationship. So if your partner has one foot out or your partner really doesn't want to be in this relationship and you are trying for the life of you to hold on to it, this is not going to work. Your partner has to also want this relationship. Okay. So assuming that your partner also wants this relationship, going back to number three, we're going to put the relationship first. So we're going to now start to think about, am I showing up on a daily basis in a way that is putting the relationship first? are the decisions that I am making. Am I thinking about the future of my relationship, or am I thinking about myself here? Or for some people, they could just be thinking about their partner. You know, it's not necessarily the independent women, but there's some people who are so um, heavy on the codependency, and they're all just like doing everything for their partner, just pleasing their partner, just wanting to make sure their partner is happy, and at their the sacrifice of themselves. And that's not putting the relationship first. Remember, if it's good for your partner and it's not good for you, it's not good for the relationship, right?
We also have a lot of that in our culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes,
the two spectrums, yeah.
correct. Yeah, very true. So yeah, third one, put the relationship first. So those are the three things. I promise you, if you start doing these three things, taking ownership, getting curious about your partner, and consistently try to make decisions where you're putting the relationship first, you will have a solid partnership. Like, it's a must. um and so to kind of dive into the overlaps that we're seeing, is just to show, okay, let's say you decide to take ownership and you decide to get curious, because let's be real, we can't do all three things all at once. This is not an overnight fix. But I just want to show you how, if you just pick one of these things to start with and then build on the other one afterwards, like, you're going to start to see progress. And so if you just start taking ownership and you start getting curious about your partner, but you're not there yet with the whole consistently trying to put the relationship first, you'll at least find that you're building some trust in your relationship. You're going to start to trust your partner a lot more. Your partner might start to trust you more, right? So there will be progress. If you decide to just start getting curious and you decide to put the relationship first, but you're still struggling on the taking ownership part, you're at least going to start to feel more connected to your partner. That connection is going to start to build. And then the third one is, if you are taking ownership and you start to put the relationship first, but you're not necessarily getting curious yet, you're just going to start to feel some growth within yourself. Like, there's going to be some personal growth. You're going to see that your mindset is different. You're going to feel so much more empowered. You're just going to feel like a whole new human being. I promise. So you could pick any tool you want to start with and just start there, and you're going to see one of these things starting to happen. But the day you get to that point where you're doing all three consistently, then that's the star right there. And that's where you're going to achieve the interdependence. That's where you're going to achieve alignment, the unity, the security. Like, it's going to be a solid partnership. So I'll pause there.
No, I
Anything?
love it. And I think Kadra said it in the comments. These steps sound so manageable.
Very
And that's the thing when you have, I'll call them issues for lack of a better word, or a word that's coming to mind right now, sometimes it feels so difficult to get past that hump. But you broke it down at a level where, like, okay, I could do that. I could start to take
good.
ownership for these things, and I can
Yeah.
be more curious about my partner. Or I
Yeah.
could start to think, okay, is that beneficial to you, to me? Okay, maybe that's not putting the relationship first.
Correct.
So it's like practical things that I could begin to do that will help my mind, because my mind is thinking, okay, I need to take ownership. My
Yeah.
mind is thinking I need to be more curious. My mind is thinking I need to put the relationship first, and what
Yeah.
the parameters look like for that. And then that's all helping me to do that jump, that mind shift that's going to
Exactly.
produce the change I want to see. Now, for our single women, how can they practice this
Hmm.
practically to also make sure that they're getting ahead of the game in terms of making that pivot?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for starters, some of all three of these, I would say, still applies in a way, just from their own personal development. So they, when you think about taking ownership, they could already start working on themselves to just show up differently in just the relationships that they have at home, like with their siblings, with their mom, with the everyday relationships, right? And just practicing speaking their needs, setting boundaries with people around them, learning to communicate better, when using when you're saying statements, try using the word and instead of but, like things like that. Just
Mhm.
there's so many ways that we can communicate differently in just our everyday life, that just practice that being a single person, and it will flow over into your, when you decide to commit to someone, it will just be who you are. Like you're not even going to try anymore, like it will just be who you are, and so you will attract the people that are aligned with that and repel the ones who are not. You know, when you start setting your boundaries, the people who can really respect those boundaries will be attracted to you. The ones who can't, bye bye. Like that's not the relationship for me. So that's the ownership piece. The curiosity piece, as I said, they can still practice that too. Everyday conversations, just when you're talking to somebody, as I said, when try listening to understand the person. Don't listen to just respond. So listen to them to the point that that person actually feels like they understand you. And you could take it up as a personal challenge. Like the next conversation you have with somebody, at the end of the conversation, just say to them, do you feel like I understood you? And if the person says yes, then great job. If the person said no, actually, I feel like you still don't get it, then that should be a red flag for you. It means like you got some work to do in actually making people feel like you understand them. And the more you can do that, the better you get at listening to understand. That's where your curiosity is developing. Because to listen to understand somebody means that you're really asking the questions that are helping you understand, and that's where curiosity comes in. And then the last one, with putting the relationship first. As a single person, obviously that's a little tough, but it's, I guess it's more around if you can train your brain to start thinking about relationship as this third thing that we're going to be cultivating together, and knowing that when you do commit to somebody, you're trying to find a partner who's going to help you create this vision that you have together, and you know that that partner is coming in with their baggage, with all their stuff, and you're going to be committed to working with that to figure out what is good for us, what is good for this thing that we want to build. You know,
Mhm.
it's not just about myself and the dreams I had and all the goals I had. It's like, no, we I now have this partner. I'm interested in knowing what were their biggest dreams and goals in life, and how can I merge mine, align mine with them, and we can do this thing together. So, yeah, I would say obviously that one's easier when you have the partner, but before that, it's like if you could start just thinking about that, just knowing that that's what you're working towards, then you can hopefully set yourself up for success.
Mhm.
And then before we move into, the next part of our conversation, you stated that the condition is if my partner is also invested in this journey.
Yeah.
A lot of women do not have partners invested in this journey. So, what is your advice to them? Where are they starting on, on the trifecta? Like, where are they going?
Number one,
Mhm.
ownership. That's where you're starting. Full on ownership. That's when you finally step into that role and realize like enough is enough. Like, why am I committed to somebody who is not committed to me? Like, why am I doing this? You know, and when you figure that out and do your healing around that and work through that, you hopefully get to that point of empowerment where you're like, no, this is not what I want, and you will have the courage to end the relationship if it's really not the relationship for you, or you will figure out how to meet that person where they're at by hopefully getting curious, because sometimes it might look like the person isn't invested in the relationship, but it could also be that that person also doesn't feel seen and understood by you, right? And so by just getting curious as well, you could hopefully figure out for real if this person wants this relationship or not. And if it's very clear that they don't want it, then again, why are you committed to someone who does not want to be with you, right? But it's clear that they do want the relationship too, then you can figure out a way to work together. There's always a way.
Always a way. Love it. Love
I mean,
that.
if I may add
Hmm.
to what Tanisha said, which is friendships and family, right? If you're single, I realized that my friends have played an important part for me in development
Mhm.
because I've practiced with them, and they call out certain things. They have identified certain things for me, and then there are other friends who, for example, never happened to me before. A good friend of mine, when we were first like deciding if we were going to be friends, she sat down and she said, "Well, what is friendship to you? Because this is what it looks like to me. This is how I expect a friend to show up. Are you prepared?" I never had that boundary conversation before with a friend.
Mhm.
I was sitting there like, "Girl, what is this?" But I love it. And so that for me, I don't think I necessarily articulated that as far as friendship was concerned, but that's
Mhm.
something that I kept in the back of my mind, that she was so intentional. I
Mhm.
definitely practice with my friends how to say things, because people
Mhm.
who really know me know that I can be very blunt. Don't
Mhm.
ask me a question if you don't want the true answer, right?
Mhm.
I'm learning how to say things and the tone in which to use things.
Yeah.
So definitely, I would say use your friends, not in a bad way. I
Yeah.
didn't use your friends in a bad way. Just practice. And some friends and I think this happened a few years ago. They gave me the side eye because I said in a group chat that I believe we can practice a form of submission to each other
Mhm.
instead of having to wait until we're in marriage. Because I think the lie that a lot of us believe is that once we get married, immediately we can just switch on that light and we're submissive. It doesn't
Mhm.
work like that. I
Mhm.
practice that with my friends and my family. I try to, because I know that I'm strong willed. I know that sometimes I have to practice backing down and saying, you know what, you got that. I'll let you have that. I'll follow you. You handle that. I know that. I know that I need that. And I think if more of us would be really honest and just accept that we are a certain way and we need to grow out of those things. We need to pivot, as you like to use the word, Zemi. And I think we would be so much more prepared.
That's really good. I think even the model that Minnie designed, when you think about relationship, like you said, you practice on your friends. That's the relationship that you put into the forefront. The friendship,
Exactly. Yeah.
if the
That's
friendship,
the thing that I thought about that too.
exactly,
I was like, that's that
yeah.
you nailed that. That's perfect for that number three, putting the relationship first.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, put that friendship first and practice there. Yeah.
Because especially as adults, like our friendships have fallen to the wayside because we're not thinking about things that put the friendship first. And I know I've made decisions that have put the friendship first at the expense of myself, which means, according to Minnie's definition, I wasn't putting the friendship first
Yep.
because that was a breeding ground for resentment. And
Mhm.
so, that's a great like flag to go on to say, hey, like this also applies to my friendships as well. Like I need to be curious about them. I need to take ownership of what I need
Yeah.
to take ownership of, and I also need to put the relationship first. We do have a question
Mhm.
um, about, I know attachment styles is going to come up. Can you end up falling into one of the negative attachment styles or beliefs based on situations you've dealt with? And I think she's meaning like, maybe post the childhood
Yep.
phase.
Yes, 100%. So, yeah, our brains are plastic and they can consistently be rewired. And you can experience traumas. You could have the most secure childhood and started growing up being a very secure person, as having that secure attachment style. And for some reason, end up in a very unfortunate relationship that could really traumatize you and do something to the whole reprogramming of your brain that now leads you to having one of the insecure attachment styles, because now you're like you're on edge. You had to cope differently in that relationship, and on you will just have to unfortunately do some work again to rewire that. So yes, it is 100% possible to change your attachment style based on your situations.
And even when you think about the fact that your brain doesn't fully develop until 25, and when I think about the toxic relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship that I experienced up until 25, like clearly some rewiring was taking place that was negative that we now have to go back and address
Correct.
repeatedly as things come up. And so even I joke with my husband the other day, I'm like, you're the first man I ever dated because you were the first person I dated who was over 25. I was like, I can't fault them that much. They were still developing, you know. But it's interesting that we have to give and receive grace, and also with ourselves through this process. Like for some of us, a lot of damage was done. Either it
Mm.
was in childhood, sometimes it was a relationship, sometimes it's even in friendship or career that could cause some shifts to take place in the way you relate to people.
Yeah.
And doing the work, seeing people like many attending lives like this to get yourself coached to a better position.
Hmm.
Now, Shana, you really wanted to have this conversation about independent women. What sparked that desire to say, I need to have this conversation, y'all?
So, what sparked it for me was being very transparent. I had a moment of breakdown a few months ago, and I was just talking to God, and I said, why am I like this? I don't want to be like this. Um, and so he said, okay, I'll show you. And he took me back to childhood, right? And he took me back to the genesis of the avoidant attachment style, which was having to self-soothe, having to figure things out on my own, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, that was the first time where I really realized this is the root of it. And so if I kind of had to figure out a lot of things in childhood, of course, that morphs into me doing the same in adulthood. And my friends laugh because last summer I proudly started to say, I want to be a passenger princess. I want to, whatever the girls do, whatever that means, I want to be that.
Hmm.
I want to be able to just take a step back and not have to worry about certain things. And a lot of my friends were shocked because they were like, girl, never heard you speak like this before. And I said, yeah, because I'm tired. I'm tired of having to, or feeling like, it's not necessarily having to, feeling like I have to figure things out on my own. And
Hmm.
then, not to get like super spiritual, but I have to at the same time is that also shows a reflection of relationship with God. If I feel like I have to figure things out on my own a lot of the time,
Hmm.
that's my perception, and that's not real, that's not true, but it affects that as well. And so this has been a journey. And that's why I really wanted to have the conversation, because I think there's a perception that a lot of us choose to be independent, but that's not necessarily the case. Yes, there are choices, but sometimes the root of it, I think, is maybe you didn't have another choice. Maybe
Hmm.
maybe life happened, and that's how things were set up unintentionally to lead us down this path. And then of course, a friend kind of took my breath away when she said this too, because I was talking to her and she said, smart girls a lot of times get pushed into being independent because we show ourselves to be competent, so therefore we may get less guidance, we may get less help,
Hmm.
because the perception is we're good, we're fine, when in reality we're children and we still need guidance and we still need help. But again,
Mhm.
that's another way to be pushed down this path of being independent and not necessarily even knowing how to get off.
And we get accolades for that as well.
Hmm.
When you're able to figure it out yourself, you get all the praise, you get the great marks. Some of
Hmm.
us, we get rewarded for getting the A's, so that's a double
Yeah.
reward. And so it just tells you it rewards independence in a way that down the line is not going to be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
So I love that. But like culturally speaking, we see this a lot, but we also see a lot of arrows being thrown into this idea of the independent woman. And it's being replaced with this aspect of soft life. So soft life me. Pay for everything. Like your money, not my money, like my money in the warehouse. Your money is the one that's paying like stock in the house. So there's this I don't even want to call it a middle ground, but there's this area that's like this this domain that a lot of women have decided to default to over independence. It's this dependency. And even it's not really even dependency because they don't need him. They just want to tax him. And so many, I don't know if you've seen this because I don't know if these women come to coaching, but what would you how would you like approach a situation like that?
So just to clarify the question, like what exactly is the challenge? Like what is the
So
issue?
these women are they are over relying, or
Mm-hmm.
they are putting him in the position solely of provider, even though they can assist and help. But they're like, you pay
Right.
for my meals, you put gas in my car, you do everything, and my money is just here for rainy day or as the me fund,
Yeah.
right? There's no what do you bring to the table? It's I come with my pretty cute little dress, like my cocktail dress. I come with my nails done and I come ready knowing how to hold a fork and a knife, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the something that we see as well. It's like the extreme version of the soft life. And so what do you say to those women who like they have this rainy day fund and they believe that my husband is just meant to provide for me, or my boyfriend is just meant to provide for me, or I have multiple people that I go on dates with because I am just meant to be provided for and coast through life, and my money is what I'm storing up for my vacations, my like they are just storing up stuff for
Mm-hmm.
whatever rainy day happens
Mm-hmm.
and relying solely on men, on sometimes multiple men to fund their lifestyle. So it's like the opposite spectrum of the independent complex that is coming up more. I see like online is this kind of view of more soft life me, take care of me, etc.
But what I'm trying to get at is when do that persona realize that they have a problem that brings them to coaching? Because for
No,
the
I'm
most
saying
part,
these people wouldn't go to coaching.
if they would, well, so far I haven't seen them. What happens?
Exactly. These are the people who
Their
probably wouldn't go
partners
to
are the ones
coaching.
that eventually comes to coaching because their partners are the ones that are like, I'm feeling used.
Oh.
I'm feeling like she just expects me to do everything. And then it turns out that the partner is not speaking their needs. The partner is not setting boundaries. The partner is not, figuring out like how to make the like what we need to do for the relationship. The partner is just giving and giving and giving, and they're the women that you're describing are the takers. And
Mhm.
so the takers aren't the ones that's coming to coaching. It's the givers that are coming to coaching.
Mm.
So that's why I wouldn't really say anything to those women. Like
Oh.
I because it's hard. So I believe that people cannot change unless they're inspired to change.
Mm.
And for those women, they don't see that they have a problem in those moments, at least. So us saying anything to them is not going to change anything. They'll just hear you, they'll roll their eyes, they'll be like, oh, my life is sweet. Like, I'm good. You're just jealous, you
So
know?
as
Mhm.
Shauna mentioned, we have men who will be joining. If they're not on now, they may be quiet in the
Mhm.
comments. But this is kind of the expectation that they're walking into in the dating world, like that I'm the one who has to have it.
Yep.
And so, what can we tell them to kind of navigate the ship? What can we tell them to what to look for, how to stir the conversation, what expectations to set? Like we can't have the men out here walking blind.
So the exact same three steps that I talked about, ownership, curiosity, and putting the relationship first, it applies to them too. Like I shared it here in the context of the independent woman because that's who we're talking about, but it applies to everyone. Everyone who is trying to create a solid partnership, like you need to do all three of those. You need to be taking ownership, you need to be getting curious about your partner, and you need to be figuring out how to put the relationship first. So, yes, if there are men out there watching this right now and feeling like, yeah, my woman is exactly as Demi just described, um, it's time for you to start taking ownership as like the number one. As I said, you need to start speaking up. You need to start setting your boundaries. Like the work is on you. Like there's no one else. It's a you problem. It's not your partner's problem. Yes, your partner is taking advantage, but that's still on you. It's 100% on you. So
I have a lot of male friends, and we have various levels of conversation surrounding expectations. And so one of the things that I say to them is, or I ask them, why are you leading with money? Because if you lead with money, then that is what is going to attract certain types of people. And so you can't lead with money and then think that you can complain or have a right to complain if later on you feel like you're an ATM.
Mhm.
Started off being the ATM. You showed your wallet.
Yep.
I- You attracted that type of person. This is the bait that you provided.
Correct.
Another thing is, and again, y'all, I'm very blunt, is I think that with a lot of men, if they like how a woman looks, for example, they're willing to do a whole lot of things in the beginning, right? Whatever their intention is. But again, did not, was not curious about her, did not take ownership, did not set any boundaries, didn't ask the right questions. Just, I like how she looks. And this
Mhm.
is from the teenager straight up to 40s, y'all. It's serious out here on the streets, okay? That's a lot of the thought and perception and what is driving the initial interactions. And again, if you are just okay with she looks a certain way, so I'll deal with this behavior, then you're going to get what you get. And especially don't have that mindset if you say you're looking for a wife. The two, they, those things don't go together, in my opinion.
And that's really good. I was going to ask you about your male friends and what they were seeing, if they see in the spectrum of independent or too dependent out there, or if it's like a balance view.
They're not really saying a balance. A lot of them hate, not hate, hate is a strong word. They dislike or are leery of the boss women. They are leery of the women who have a lot going on.
Mhm.
As far as like she has a business, she has a job, she has this, she has that, because it can give off a certain perception to them, either that she is not submissive, she's not capable of being submissive, she doesn't want to be submissive, and she will be too independent. And I do question that because I don't think it means that. But then again, I feel that a lot of men have a different perception of why women are independent versus
Mm,
us knowing the backstory of why we are independent.
Mhm.
So I think that really makes a difference. And then there's the other spectrum of, you know, in order to go on a first date, they're being asked for money, or
mm,
just having met the night before through a mutual acquaintance because they happen to be in the same place. And then I had this guy friend, met this young lady the night before, and then by the next morning, she had found him on social media, messaged, and said, you know, I'm in a hard position. Can you lend me money? He just met this young lady, no intention of dating, didn't ask for a number, nothing. And so it's a wide gamut of everything in between.
yeah, wow. We do have some question, two questions that I saved. One here is about, well, both about children, but in different regards. So one is, do you find that women who end up with the child or children are more susceptible to the Miss Independent mentality when caring for the child, knowing that the father is not consistent with finances? So essentially, the situation is breeding this Miss Independent because, in a sense, they do have to be independent of him, in the
Mhm.
absence of him, doing what he should do.
You're asking if those children typically end up becoming the Miss Independence as well? Is-
The women with who? She said the women who end up, if they end up being miss, if they end up flowing into that. I guess I'd answer the question, and essentially yes. I guess she was saying if you find it in maybe in your practice, that if you've seen that, single mothers end up having to be, um, you know,
Yeah, well, naturally, right? Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Because obviously, if the father is not consistent, as they talk about, or, but I honestly, I don't. What I found is that it didn't start there. To be
Mm,
honest, it started from before. I think they actually had the independent mindset before, and it's, I won't say it pushed the partner away, but it convinced the partner anyway that they would be good on their own, like they've got it, because that's how they sold themselves to begin with, right? Like I don't need you. Like, yes, I could provide for my child. Like, if you don't want to show up, you don't want to do your part, like I'll still be good. And so that wasn't very encouraging to the partner to really feel like we're a team here, or to show up that, that they needed to show up to feel like we're on the same page. So at some point they become single, but it's not because the partner left why they became independent. It, what I found at least, is that it started long before that.
mm-hmm. And even when you're going through it and you have the disappointments come up where you may financially have to step in more, even your language, um,
Hmm.
like you said, like, okay, we're gonna be good no matter what you do, is not encouraging him to step up. But
Correct.
at the same time, we go back to your
Exactly.
conditional statement, of this person really has to be invested.
Yeah.
And if they're not invested, and in this case, it's no longer the relationship first, it's the child first. That's what's
Mhm.
first. It's not how I feel, you
Exactly.
feel. It's like what benefits the child most. Um,
Exactly.
and if we're both not committed to that, then we're never going to reach this trifecta, this
Exactly.
that we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And then this one here is going into like our own children, or how do we raise our girls to know how to set boundaries and develop healthy interdependence?
Oh, I love this one. The easiest way to do it is that you have to do it. Like, you have to start setting the boundaries. You have to develop the healthy interdependence, and your girls will see that. Like, that's the fastest way that they're going to learn this. They're not going to learn it from you telling them anything or trying to, imprint things in their brain. Like, they're learning more from what you do versus what you say. So, you start showing up differently, you start setting those boundaries and start creating that healthy interdependent relationship, and your girls are going to have something to model and to know what to look for when that time comes for them. But yeah, it's not going to come from you bringing them to any class or anything.
Mhm.
Like, it starts with you. 100% you.
And Shauna, you find in your friendships, you having this mindset, the shift of passenger princess me, let me practice on y'all. Is it influencing your friends to also shed the weight of the Miss Independent? Or
Whew. um, that's hard. That's a process, especially if they're used to being the strong one. I'm used to being the strong one. Um, and if you're used to being the strong one, it takes a lot for you to step back and recognize that you might be enabling, again, accountability. You might be enabling certain things, your behavior, because, the strong one feels like, okay, I have to be there. I have to show up. I have to perform. Otherwise, the world is going to fall apart, or I'm going to let someone down, or whatever the case may be. And so, yeah, no, I my cape is in the closet. I retired that. I don't do that anymore. Yes, I can definitely be relied upon, but I don't do that anymore, because it is, when you have depleted yourself for other people, and then sometimes, depending on your circle, you don't have people who pour back into you, then
Mhm.
you don't have anything left for yourself and for the people who need you.
Mhm.
So you now set those expectations with friends, like, hey, let me show you what the friendship expectations I have.
I don't have that formal conversation,
Mhm.
but what I had to start doing, and
Mhm.
I was really bad. It was to the point where, for example, I if someone came and said, Shanna, I know you know how to do this. Do you think you can help me with this document? I would write the document myself. I spent so much. I enabled. I enabled
Mhm.
because I'm thinking, oh, it's not a big deal. I know how to do it. I'm just trying to be helpful. So then I had to turn into, okay, this is the phrase that you Google, and that will tell you everything you need to know. I am
Mm,
unable to. I do not have capacity. I had
mhm.
to learn how to say no and the different ways to say no. And now I have like this little, like 10 points of how to say no that I send to some of my friends who, they struggle with it. So I say, you know what, at any given time, you can pick from this list and choose what's appropriate.
You have it handy? I would love to hear it.
Um, do I have it? I could pull it up.
So while I have you, Minnie, because you have two littles, and this is our only chat and chew. How do you cultivate independence with your children? Because we do want to see independence. It's age specific. We want to see it with kids. So how do you cultivate independence with your littles?
So there's a difference with in the context of the conversation that we're talking about how we said that we grew up being independent almost from this almost like we had to cope, like it was our coping strategy, right? Like our needs weren't being met, and so we had to figure it out on our own, and so we naturally became independent. That's the context of what we're talking about here.
Mhm.
That's not what we want, right? So we're still gonna try to meet our kids' needs. And as I talk about those four key ones, it's like we're still gonna try to help them feel emotionally safe, help them feel seen, help them feel soothed, and help them feel supported. And if you're consistent in that, I mean, listen, none of us are perfect. You're still going to flip out on your kids. Like that is normal. But what you're going to do differently is that repair and come back to them and apologize and let them know, like, hey, I was having a hard day, or, I was having a hard time managing my emotions. They're regulating my emotions, and I'm sorry. And that way they're not making this about themselves. They're not going to walk away thinking that, oh, like you just can't you just don't see me, or you just don't care about me, so I just have to go figure stuff out on my own. Like we're trying to undo that. We're not creating that kind of independence. So meeting the needs at least prevents the one that we're talking about. But to answer your question about the healthy independence, I would say, is obviously I mean, it's around like giving them, when it's age appropriate, giving them the opportunity to do things for themselves, and doing your hardest to manage your own emotions. So we are so quick to feel like our kids are moving too slow, or they're just like, we just want to speed things up, like get going, like this is taking so long. And that's where we jump in and we're just doing everything for them. Believe me, I was guilty of it. I'm still guilty of it. I still do it from time to time. I'm not gonna act like I'm perfect. But it's like consciously trying to like see those opportunities and say, hey, you know what, I need to step back here. I need to give my child the opportunity to learn in this moment, to do something for themselves. And yes, it's going to be like really gnawing at me to like, it's going to be hard emotionally, because you're probably even hearing your own parents in your head, like, hurry up, why are you taking so long? Like you're trying to undo that. Like you're trying to like shut that parent up in your head and just breathe through it and be like, okay, like, give my child the opportunity here to learn to do this on their own. Purposeful struggling like that. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the more you can practice doing that, then you're helping to create that healthy independence within them, and not the independence that we're talking about here, where they had to be independent to cope. Like we're not doing that.
I love that. That was a quick little segue. But okay, so tell me the ways to say no. Let's go.
I could not find it in WhatsApp, but if
Oh,
if someone has an issue, go to Chat GPT. I promise it works. Go to Chat GPT and put in the prompt, how do I politely
Say
say
no.
or decline offers? It will generate a list and tell them to generate a second list. And I know someone said in the comment, no is a complete sentence, but If you're not used to saying no, it's very painful to just say no full stop, because then you feel like you have to explain. So ChatGPT will tell you.
As I go, let's go. Okay. Be direct but polite. Thank you for considering me, but I am unable to help right now. Offer an alternative or compromise. I appreciate the invitation, but I have other commitments, perhaps another time. Give a reason. I'm sorry, but I have a prior engagement that day. Express appreciation. I'm honored that you thought of me, but I'm afraid I have to decline. Be firm but respectful. I understand your request, but I'm not able to take on any more responsibilities at the moment. And I'm sure you could refine that to decline exactly what it is you're declining in the moment. But definitely love all of those tips. And you use what you said on me. You're like, here's the prompt. Go and find out yourself. And so I love that. Someone is laughing. Like, definitely. Well, let me pull it up. That's a good one. And they're laughing. Chat GPT for the win. Love that. And you guys, I think you should all go and ask ChatGPT, what is interdependence? How can I be more interdependent, etc. Go play around with ChatGPT and learn some lessons on the topic. So we have a few more minutes. I wanted to keep it tight to 125, 130. So let's do like final thoughts on the subject of independence. What you want people to walk away with tonight, knowing the shifts that they need to make to get on the right track in terms of developing this model, this better trifecta of what we should achieve in our relationships. The hold on,
Ownership.
I can see it in my brain.
Yeah.
Ownership,
Mhm.
curiosity, and putting the relationship first.
Good job.
High five.
I
So yeah, go ahead. You want to go first?
So overall takeaway on
Yeah.
what I want you all to walk away with. I would say just realize that this if you are still walking around with this attitude of feeling like I need to be independent, uh and while you think it's something to be proud about and you like to flaunt it, realize it's actually trauma. It's stuff that needs healing within you. It's emotional wounds that you are carrying around, and your independence was more a coping strategy for those wounds. And so if you can do the work, get coaching. You don't have to get coaching, but if you need the support, I recommend get coaching. But do the work to become a lot more self-aware and work through that to shift your mindsets around that and heal that within you, and realize that that state that you grew up in, the behaviors that you felt like you needed to cope in those situations, are not your present situation anymore. And so if you're in a committed relationship, you need new strategies in this situation, and the strategies you developed as a child is not going to work here. So um yeah, realize that it's not as impressive as people like to make it sound. It does more harm than good, especially as you're trying to work towards bigger goals and dreams in life. You'll get there a lot faster when you create an interdependent relationship versus you holding on to your sense of independence. So yeah, that's what I'll sum that up to say.
Love that. And we'll come back and you can share your current offerings as well.
Oh, sure.
So, Shauna, what are your words for the people?
As someone who is single and working through her own independence, I will say ask yourself why you are this way, and be willing to hear the answers. Get quiet with yourself and then ask, are you really okay? I think a lot of us don't take that time to answer honestly. If we did answer honestly, a lot of us would say that we're tired, we're frustrated, we're resentful of whatever it is. We might be disappointed. Um, and then we have to go to the root and dig into why that's happening. And then we have to decide that we can't stay there, right? And so if that means coaching, if that means therapy, if that means um, whatever else plus Jesus, then do what we need to do, because we have to be healthy. We have to be healthy for ourselves, for our children, present, future, for our relationships, for our marriages if they happen, present, future. So that's what I would say.
I love that question. Am I okay? And why am I not
Mhm.
okay? I feel like I need to sit in that question. Am I okay? And why are you not okay? And really get to the root of that. Because if we take these things along with us, they never stop. So a wedding ring, it doesn't stop it. Marriage doesn't stop it. Like it doesn't stop until we make a decision that I need to, I don't like, you had that moment like I don't want to go on like this, right? And then until we have that moment and pivot and learn and pivot, we stay stuck. So books can help, coaching can help, sessions like this can help. For someone maybe have gotten the little nugget that they need today
Mhm.
to just shift gears,
Yeah.
right? They may have got it from you, Shauna. They may have got it from you, Minnie. They got that nugget they need to like, I can't continue like this. I need to be invested and make a change. The problem is me. Joy said it as well in the comments. The problem is me. And I saw myself in a lot of a lot of the discussion tonight. So, Shauna, how can they? I keep saying Chana because we have someone on our team called Chana. It's so close. So, how is it that people can stay more connected with you? I know you do chats on your personal page. You go deep into like your opinion pieces, also with your facts, business, personal, etc. So, how can people get more in contact with you and follow along in what it is that you have?
Yes. So you can follow me or friend request me on Facebook, Shana Edgecombe. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I don't talk about relationships on there. That's more business oriented. But you can definitely reach out to me on Facebook, Shana Edgecombe, Shana Edgecombe.
She's like, exactly. I keep thinking you're calling my name. And what about the floral business?
Oh,
They can
yeah.
also, okay.
Yes. If you need wedding flowers specifically, you can definitely follow me. My business is called by Shana E. A lot of people think my name is Shanae as a result, but it's Shana E.
Hold on, I think I did it wrong. Let me just make
It's
sure.
on Instagram, Shana by Shana E .co
Oh,
on Instagram. I don't post too much on Facebook. Instagram is where I spend most of my time for the floral world. So there I am.
perfect. And I have seen those beautiful flowers in person. They look amazing. And also, you probably have seen her work and not even realize you saw her work
Correct.
because she does help when in periods of high volume with other floral companies. So you've seen her work quite a bit. So, Minnie,
Mhm.
with the coaching business, I know you're running a program right now. I don't know if the special is still on, but you can talk about the program that is going on right now and how people can flood the gates. Because I know a lot of women in the comments sound like they need to hit you up, even if it's just for a consultation. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so right now I'm offering a very, very special promotion which ends the end of this month. July 31st is the last day that I'm offering it. But you can sign up to be coached by me for 60 minutes at $10. That's it, $10. My regular rate is $100 and I dropped it to 10. So and if you do secure that rate of, if you sign up for at least one session before July 31st at the $10 special, and you need more coaching onwards, which most people do, you will secure that rate. So I will work with you for as long as you need to achieve the goals that you need at $10 per session.
And that's 10 USD, because don't tell
10
us
USD, sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
10
Don't
USD.
tell us that's 10 Canadian. Okay, good.
10, 10
I could
USD.
buy I could buy 10 sessions at $10.
You
One time.
could. You
Okay.
could. And so someone said Wi-Fi special. We are doing a Wi-Fi special. Many did not know this, but we are giving away 10 spots.
Oh, okay.
10 spots. So y'all secure your 10 spot. And if you get it before, if you have your first session before the 31st, it sounds like you could lock in a $10 rate. Okay. And
Yep.
so I think we had, just let us know. Shauna, you'll be one of those people. You could get your first session. Um, And then I know Joy, you in there, and I don't know who else wants to go, but we have 8 more spots that we're giving away, or we'll pay for your first 2 if we don't get the 10. So definitely want to take advantage of that.
Oh,
Um,
that's so nice of you,
Kristen,
Zen.
master degreed, 2 kids, worked it out from the experience, went to get the financial education certification, relationship coach certification. You will be in good hands over there. Okay. So definitely excited for people to take advantage of that. In fact, I should go. Why don't I go?
Why not?
Why
Totally
don't I
fun.
go too?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so let's have the whole community uplifted in making sure that we are focused on stripping away these mentalities that are holding us back and moving into this interdependent model. And as Shana said, practice on your friends
Hmm.
and family. Practice on your friends and family if you're not in a relationship. Practice on your friends and family. So anyone who wants to take advantage of the deal tonight, send us an email at wifeherministry.com with your full name and your email. You're sending your email address, but send it again in in the text. And I'll forward that along to Minnie. What's your coach name, Minnie? Is it Coach T?
No, actually, I let people call me Minnie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, have a great conversation with Minnie and begin to peel back those layers. So thank you, ladies, for coming on. This is impromptu, y'all. I bounced in their inboxes. And for Shauna, it was
Oh,
just a
just to
post.
mention to follow me
Oh, go
on
ahead.
at the Mini Insights, but that's
Oh, yeah, yeah.
my
How to find you
Instagram.
on
Yeah,
Instagram at the
yeah,
mini insights.
yeah.
Insights. Yes, go and join. I said it right?
Yep,
Okay.
perfect.
Go and join the family. Follow. Oh, yeah. Someone said, how do we connect with her again? I feel like we need to put Minnie on a retainer. Hey, y'all.
Happy to come on anytime for you, Sammy. You know that. I love talking with you. So, yeah.
No, thank you so much. She had another session with us a while back. What did we talk
Hmm.
about then? It
We
was
were
about
talking about business back then,
yeah,
and I was helping small businesses with
exactly. I think it was
digital.
about business finances and stuff
Yep,
like that. Yeah, and that
yep.
was a really great one as well. Yes, impromptu. I went in the inbox and Minnie was sick of me. She was like, Zemi, you didn't give me no direction.
Yeah.
But she did a great job. And then Shauna just posted a Facebook post. And I was like, oh, guess what? This is our focus of the month. So come on over. And, so thank you, ladies, for just walking in blind with me, sharing your gems tonight, and, really being so engaging with the audience. So really appreciate you. And I'm just going to close this out in prayer. And then you guys can have a blessed night. So, Lord, I thank you for this time of fellowship. I thank you for this time of impartation, this time of knowledge sharing, God, where we, as your daughters and even your sons who will come along or who are even engaging with their wives and friends in this moment, but just sharing information. I pray, Lord God, that we will be better from this moment on, that we will pivot from this position that we're in and be forever changed, that something broke tonight, something shifted tonight, and we will walk forward from this moment better. And that those around us by extension will also be better from the changes that took place with us tonight. Even our children, not even our future children, Lord God, they will be better because of something that shifted here tonight or after this live is watched in totality. So, Lord, I thank you. We give you all glory, all honor, and all praise. May you bless these ladies and everyone represented here. In the name of your son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Someone say yes, retainer for Minnie. Is this your person?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, love that. So good night, ladies. Have a blessed
Thank you
night.
so
Thank
much.
you so much. Bye.
All right. Bye.